Welcome to the Imperfect Show. My name is Jeremy. This is Susanna, and we come to you almost every week, as often as we can, just about every week, and talk about various issues that take place in life. And it's called the Imperfect Show because life is imperfect because people are imperfect. And we do our best to navigate life and to make good decisions and to raise kids and have homes and families and deal with culture and all the stuff that's going on. But really, so much of it is a challenge, and we know that, and it's not perfect. And so we don't try to be perfect. We acknowledge that we are imperfect, but that we move forward regardless. And we want to talk tonight about an aspect of living that I personally think, particularly in the moment we're living in our culture, is overlooked. This is something that I spoke about recently on my podcast, the March or Die podcast, that I believe is extremely important, but again, also extremely overlooked. And it's the idea of choosing your battles, picking your fights. Here's the premise. The premise is this: not every battle is your battle. Not every fight is your fight. You don't need to get involved in every aspect of drama that other people in the world want to draw you into. Life is a challenge. Life can be difficult. All of us will encounter battles. There's no question about that. In order for you to move forward and do good things and accomplish the purpose for which you were created, you're going to have to engage in battle. That's just a part of life. Those obstacles that will keep you from moving forward. The problem is this: so often we get involved in battles or fights that we're not really supposed to be involved in, that have very little to do with us, that don't really matter, or whatever the case. And we invest our energy, our time, our resources into that, and don't have the energy, the time, and the resources to fight the real battles that we need to fight. I talked about this again, and I think this is just so crucial. It's having the wisdom, it's having the understanding of what you should be doing, what you should be engaged in, and the battles that you should really fight. We thought we would talk about this a little bit tonight, more specifically. When I talked about it earlier last week, it was pretty broad. It was fight the battles that you've been called to fight. And I talked about some things you can consider when you're doing that. But this is true also in relationships, whether it's your relationship to your spouse, your relationship with your kids, your relationships with others. We live in a world that is hypersensitive and always looking for a fight. I don't mean to always jump up and down on social media, but social media kind of engenders this. Everyone is fighting all of the time. You can hide behind your profile picture, so you don't really have to get face to face with people. We're all looking for a fight all the time. But we have to remember, we have to understand that not every battle is our battle. Not every fight is our fight. And not everything is worth fighting about. Now, I'll preface this, and then we can, talk about some of the specific aspects of it. But we would acknowledge, you've talked about this a lot, how there are things, there are moments when conflict needs to happen in a relationship. The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. It's really two blades, two pieces of metal striking each other, and that if that's done right, it might be painful, it might be, difficult to deal with, but it can make you sharp. It can make you more what you need to be. In relationships, there will be times of conflict. There are a lot of things that are worth fighting about. There are a lot of things that will require conflict, if done for the right reason, the right way, to accomplish the right thing. But when we live our lives constantly, I was going to say consistently, but constantly looking for a fight, we have become really counterproductive in our relationships. And we invest our energy, our time, and our resources in fights and issues and stuff that we really don't need to engage in. So that's the premise for this conversation. We need to choose our fights. We need to choose our battles. We need to engage in the right things and stay away from the things that really, I won't say don't matter, but aren't productive, the things that won't produce fruit.
And really, I think when we're talking about being productive or producing fruit within a relationship or within a home, or even with your friends and your coworkers, things that would hinder you from having the kind of relationship with them that you want to have and that you
Right.
should have. And so when we talk about being productive and choosing your battles wisely and all of that. It's more about choosing those things that would allow your home to be what it's supposed to be, or your relationships to be what they're supposed to be. And even in the workplace, your relationship with your parents, your siblings, just the people that you come in contact with, and making it a little bit more personal like that, and thinking about, even your social media presence. If you're, connected with family and friends on social media, and you're constantly the one that is picking a fight and the one that's out there, you're probably going to alienate yourself from some of those people, and they're going to distance themselves from you, because no one really wants to be around someone that's constantly picking a fight,
right?
And so and getting involved in every single thing. And so choosing your battles wisely within relationships and within your home, it would be so that those things and those relationships can be what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. There are people we talk about. We have maybe a unique position where we talk to a lot of people who are struggling in their relationships, and I don't know if that's unique good or unique bad, but it's unique. We just, because of what we do and because of who we're around, we have those conversations a lot. And it seems that in every family there are people who somehow, for some reason, find their identity in conflict. They feel like if there's not something going on, if there's not some drama happening, some conflict taking place, they just don't know what to do. And I think there are spiritual reasons for that. There are emotional reasons for that. People need to feel needed. They need to feel wanted. They need to feel engaged. And where they find that is in conflict. Okay, those people exist. My advice to you, if you have those people in your life, is to stay away from them. And if you have to, even if they're family members, to cut off their access to you. Don't let them draw you into that unnecessarily. And it's okay, particularly if you have a family, to say, I can't be involved in that. That's not healthy. So those people do exist. What we're talking about on the other side is you need to make a rational decision not to engage with those people or those fights, those battles that they bring to you, because there is nothing productive that will come from it. When the Bible says that iron sharpens iron, so a man, the countenance of his brother, that's the phrase in Proverbs, it really talks about having moments of conflict that will produce something good. If the conflict that you're involved in has no potential of producing anything good, if you ask the question, what happens when someone wins this fight? And the answer is nothing, or things get worse, then you're probably in a fight you don't need to be in. So let's talk for a minute about times when conflict needs to take place. Give me some examples, and you talk about this a lot in marriage, some examples of when conflict needs to take place in marriage.
I would say that, especially within a marriage relationship, it's okay. This is kind of difficult to talk about because just because of where Jeremy and I have kind of come from, and kind of some of the things that we've been through. Our personalities are very different in the way that we kind of interact.
I'm the quiet one in the
with
relationship.
Other people and even with each other. And so for a long time, for us, having a confrontational conversation was not happening, because it just was one-sided, and it did not go very well. And so
you were always the one trying to be confrontational?
I was always the one trying to be confrontational.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
But I do feel like at times in a marriage, and this is speaking from experience and something that we've learned and something maybe that we've grown in, is that it is okay to bring something to your spouse maybe that you are feeling like, if they have hurt you in some way, or if they have done something to offend you, or if they have done something that maybe is hindering the relationship from being all that it can be. It is, I would say, important at that moment to bring that to that spouse. It's not fair to, especially the person that you're married to kind of hold that against them. And it can cause a lot of bitterness to grow, a lot of separation emotionally, and from that connection that you're supposed to be having with that person. And so I would say at times that you feel hurt, or, maybe there's a disagreement, something that they do that you disagree with. I do feel like it's very important to bring that to them. And I would say, this is just such a big thing. I don't know, very big topic, because there are times and ways and all of that you need to bring that to that person. I would say wait for the right opportunity, think of the right words, and bring that to that person in a very loving way, and just let them know that, hey, like that really hurt my feelings when you did that, or that kind of offended me, and let's see what we can do to solve this. And I would say, I actually heard this yesterday or today, someone say that in a marriage relationship, it's really important that when you are fighting or disagreeing or whatever, that you are not doing that to win, but that you're doing that to come to a solution. And so that is you coming together, you're on the same side, you're fighting for the same thing,
Right.
you're fighting for a marriage relationship.
Right.
And so coming together and realizing that this person's not against me, this person wants what's best for me, they want what's best for our relationship. And so let's see what we can do to solve this between us so that our relationship can be all that it can be. And so if both people are remembering that in the midst of the conflict, then I think that is important. And so in those situations, when it comes to raising kids and any kind of disagreements that you would have, hurt feelings or things like that between each other, I would say those are really important times to bring that up for the purpose of coming to a solution, because you're both on the same page, fighting for the same thing. And it would not be to win, like you just said a couple minutes ago, like when you're looking at this battle that you're in, and you're thinking, what's going to happen if I win, if it's nothing, or if it's going to accomplish something. In a marriage relationship, it wouldn't be, I am going to bring this to him to win this fight. But no, I'm going to bring this to him so our relationship can be better.
Yeah, the Bible says to speak the truth in love. To pretend in a close relationship like nothing's wrong when there is something wrong is not speaking the truth. But speaking the truth in love, we've talked about this before, is doing what's best for the object of your love. It's making decisions for them. So you speak the truth, but you do it in a way that is helpful to them if they'll receive it well. And this is the other half of it. But that's different than speaking truth to dominate the other person in the relationship, or to win an argument, or to prove that you can think faster, or whatever the case. And in marriage, we get into these stupid things where we fight for no real good reason. It's not speaking the truth. It's not saying, this is a problem that I've identified. This is something that I'm feeling. This is an area that you've hurt me, and I'm sharing it with you so that we can grow closer together and we can move past this, and I won't hang on to this hurt. That's the right thing. But you can speak the truth in the wrong way. You can say what is technically true in a way that is damaging and does not serve a good purpose.
That's why I think it's so funny when, and it's a thing, women do this, when you're asked, hey, you okay? Something wrong? No, I'm fine. That's not speaking the truth in love if you're not actually fine.
It's a lie.
It's not true.
Right.
And it's a thing that women do because maybe they want to avoid conflict, they don't want to get into it, and it's not okay. If there is really a problem, it's not okay to say, no, I'm fine, everything's fine.
Right.
Unless it actually is, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But women do that a lot, and they try to, I would say most women, try to avoid conflict in that way. And it's also okay in times like that to say, you know what, I'm not okay, but I just need a little bit of time. Maybe we can come together at this appointed time. We can talk about, this, and that's okay too.
Right.
It's not something that has to be gotten into right now. But that's why I think that's so funny. And a lot of, I've heard people speak on marriage at marriage conferences, and that's always addressed is the, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine, when it might not actually be.
And that's an example, speaking the truth in love, of fighting the battles in that relationship, to use kind of that imagery, fighting the battles in that relationship, because if you're moving forward and in a relationship, particularly a marriage relationship, you should be moving forward toward growing closer together and accomplishing what God has for you as a couple. Well, along that path, there are going to be times of conflict and times of difficulty and times of battle. Even the Bible talks about spiritual battles. There will be those battles. Those are the battles that you should engage in the right way. Speaking the truth in love. Trying to come together to a solution that makes you better for it. Those are the right kind of battles. Unfortunately, there are so many people who are engaged in fighting over every stupid thing just to win an argument or to prove some kind of dominance or control. Control is often the issue. That they're so engaged in that when the real issues come up that really need to be addressed, they either aren't because there's just no framework for dealing with it. You fight about everything. How would this be any different? Or you're so emotionally and even physically sometimes just exhausted from fighting all of the time that you don't have the energy to deal with the real things. This happens in parenting. Your kids will do 1,000 stupid things a week. 998 of them don't really need to be addressed by you, or they need to be addressed quickly and you need to move on. But sometimes as parents, we engage every single thing that happens that is not exactly what we want it to be, or every weird thing that goes on in a family. We're constantly fighting over everything so that when the real issues present themselves, we don't have the energy or, with our kids, the credibility to actually engage those. And that's the difference between battles that need to be engaged in, our battles, and battles that we should say, you know what, that's not mine to fight. That's not important now. And if we're not careful, we'll get dragged into the drama and into the really the battles that the people around us are engaged in, and not engage in the battles that we're supposed to be involved in. I think of one example of this that is a little broader than what I just described. People in ministry often have this happen to them, where so much of the energy of a pastor, someone in ministry, is spent engaging in other people's battles and in other people's drama and in other people's stuff. They can get pulled into that so deeply that they don't have the energy or the ability to engage in their own battles at home. And so the relationships that should be the most important to them with their spouse, with their kids, they love those people. They just don't have the energy to engage with them in a meaningful way, even when conflict is necessary, speaking the truth in love to move down the road, because they've been pulled into everybody else's fight. It's important to help other people, but helping, encouraging, even equipping is different than fighting their fights for them or with them. We have to be very deliberate about the battles that we engage in.
And it's really a battle for what's, if you think about it like that, a battle for what's happening inside of our home and protecting that. And I think the enemy, Satan, wants nothing more than to destroy the relationships that are taking place inside of our home. And so to get us so distracted with other things, even if it's good things, like
Right.
you were saying, it's important to help people, and some people are in a position in their lives, those in ministry, and if you're part of something of helping other people, those are all good things. But sometimes even good things can distract us from doing the best things,
Right.
in our home, and nurturing those relationships and fighting for what's important there, and keeping the battles outside away from, I guess, the battles that are happening inside.
Sure.
And the ones that are truly important that we need to be fighting. Not that those other things are not important, but really, are they more important than the relationships that are inside your home? And so when I think about it even that way too, it's really a battle that we're in for the things that matter most, and those relationships that are taking place inside our home or with people that are closest to us. And are we allowing things to distract us from or lose our focus in those areas, and fighting for what's really important?
Yeah, that's right. This is a thought, and it needs to be developed in your own scenario, in your own situation, of course. But be very careful about what you allow yourself to get pulled into. I would say be very defensive against those who would try to pull you into every issue that they have in their lives. There are some family members, there are some coworkers, there are neighbors that they would love nothing more than to occupy all of your time by pulling you into whatever they think is important right now because of how it makes them feel. Defend against that, and don't feel bad about it, because you have real battles that are on your path of life that you need to address so that you can fully be what God has created you to be. And you need to be very deliberate about defending against some of those other things. Again, it doesn't mean not helping, it doesn't mean not equipping, it means discerning when they're just trying to pull you into something that is fruitless and will not bear anything. Understand that, defend against it, cut it out if you need to, and focus where God has placed you. And if you'll do that, it doesn't mean that life will be without conflict. All marriages have conflict, all of them. The best of them have conflict. But in the best marriages, they've learned how to fight the battles, to deal with the conflict, how to grow through it, and grow together in it. and so it is in parenting relationships and work relationships that are healthy. Healthy relationships have conflict, but they also have people in those relationships who are not afraid to engage, but do it by speaking the truth in a way that is loving, that is for the good of the person that they're engaged in that battle with. And if you'll do that, it really will change so much of the conversation around your relationships and how you move forward in those. So a lot of other things we could say here. Again, there are so many thoughts wrapped up in this, but be very careful, be very deliberate, choose your battles well, and you'll be happy that you did.
It's really all about priorities, I think.
All about priorities.
It really is, and not feeling bad about putting the people that are most important to you on the top of that list. And a lot of people tend to feel bad when, they prioritize in that way. And so,
Right.
I think if you'll prioritize your relationships in the right way and choose those wisely, then I think those can be some really fruitful relationships in your life.
That's good. Well, thank you. We do our best to bring things to you that often we're dealing with and talking through. Most of these conversations are conversations that we've had, and then we share them with you after we've had them. But I hope it's a help to you. And again, just take it as a starter thought and begin to look at your own life and conserve your energy, put it where it needs to be, prioritize well, and you'll be thankful that you did. All right, thank you. We will talk to you next time.